Today I would like to share an important Master's module simply entitled Forgiveness. From a holistic standpoint, forgiveness is important to your well-being because non-forgiveness tarnishes our energy, therefore infiltrating our feelings, darkening them by creating revengeful, hurtful, resentful, and simply negative thoughts that ensures that we're anything but complete. Non-forgiveness, in my view, empties us of all the goodness that we have inside. It's like pouring blackness into light, pollution into clear and clean water. In the context of manifesting and having a rich mind, non-forgiveness blocks our flow. Some people don't believe it's good to forgive because in some ways it's like condoning or accepting bad behavior. However, their lessons are not yours. Bad behavior will ultimately lead to pain, a loss of friendships, a thinning network, bad publicity, and ultimately loneliness and sadness. It can't be good for them, but don't make it bad for you either. Wayne Dyer once said there are no justified resentments. It's like part of you must stay down there with them as you hold them below you. To be clear, forgiveness is not condoning a thoughtless act. It's releasing you from it. When we take a theological perspective, forgiveness is a virtue, a pinnacle to climb, a goal to aspire to. A Christian view is that an unforgiving, vengeful, or bitter spirit will not only affect you and those around you, it will actually separate you from the blessings of God. Therefore, you must forgive others no matter what the offense. Christians believe that forgiveness is an act of the will, not from your emotions. Forgiveness is not a feeling. It's a conscious act to free yourself from the burden of others. Forgiveness can be understood as a spiritual practice and has been taught by people such as Jesus, Buddha, and many other spiritual teachers. Webster's Third International Dictionary defines forgiveness in this manner: to cease to feel resentment against on account of a wrong committed. This is poignantly illustrated in a well-known Tibetan Buddhist story about two monks. Some years after being released from prison, where they had been tortured by their captors. The first monk asks the second, "Have you forgiven them?" The second monk replies, "I will never forgive them, never." The first monk responds with a sentence that incarcerates this point profoundly. "Well," he says, "I guess they still have you in prison, don't they?" While from a theological perspective we can view non-forgiveness as a prison sentence, many have placed complicating meanings upon forgiveness and so will never forgive. Ultimately, you will learn that our job is to diminish meaning altogether, and only then will we be free. Dictionary.com's definition of forgive is to cease to feel resentment against. In other words, you don't have to continue to feel resentment. They are free and you are imprisoned by your own resentment. Does that make sense? In NLP practitioner training, we spoke a great deal about being at cause. We must equally own our feelings. We must release them to be free. It is often mistakenly thought that if we practice forgiveness, we are somehow accepting or pardoning an act that is within itself unforgivable. Another mistaken impression about forgiveness is that it implies one is weak or not standing up to those who do or have done evil acts. This view, this complex equivalence that perpetuates feuds, fights and wars. However, again, theology believes non-forgiveness creates a war within, a battle against our own soul. I'd like to share a personal story with you. My first fully committed attempt to do what I loved and to become a multimillionaire doing it began in 1986. I was 25 years old, ambitious of course, and I left Melbourne, Australia to seek my fortune. Traveling 3,406 kilometers, which is, for our American friends, 2,116 miles along the endless stretch of roads filled with nothingness, gave me much time to think. And of course I was driving on my own. So I asked myself two questions. One that kept me in the past, and the other that kept me in a different space. That is, it completely liberated me into a complete and whole and new future. Those two questions: who am I? You can guess where that kept me. And more importantly, who will I become? Most believe that who you are most likely to become is the sum total of your past. However, we know that your past does not equal your future. You can change it with one conscious decision. And of course, we all know about the NLP techniques and processes that can completely change our identity and our programs and our patterns. So you can certainly change it with one conscious decision, and that one decision can be a decision to forgive you and everyone else. So there I was, driving along the Nullarbor Plain, deciding to divorce my identity, forgiving others for their wrongdoings and forgiving myself for all of mine. And so at age 26, I became a millionaire. It all started when I bootstrapped a business. I built an advertising agency from nothing to become the 12th largest in Western Australia. But something happened along the way that could have changed my entire future. One of my business partners was my first encounter with a sociopath. Yes, a sociopath. Let's call him Mr. X. It was at the time of technology entering into the world of advertising, and my job was to explore our options. We could ignore technology or embrace it. Ignoring it would have only delayed the inevitable, so we decided to embrace it. My peers were telling us nightmare stories about losing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars as large print runs went wrong. We had to learn how to output preprint films correctly for our printers. It was easy to miss a typo or an invisible white band, that would obscure an important block of type or run over the top of a photograph, and as such, the client would totally refuse to pay for the job, and rightly so, I guess. Fraught with danger, we decided to enter the industry of digital technology. However, I knew there would be companies that had embraced the technology and would have suffered as a consequence and be on their knees financially. Soon, I found such a company. These people had all the technology, they had all the people who knew even how to use the technology, however were near bankrupt as they paid the price of trial and error. We rescued them with a buyout, and soon we were truly going places. According to Campaign Brief and Industry Magazine, we were an agency to watch. It was a very exciting time for us, but at that time, my sister in Victoria had a heart attack, and so did my father. I began to think about how far away I was from them and how long it would actually take for me to fly to be there by their side if the worst happened. It was a seed, a thought that would have me decide a whole new future for me. So for me, it was time to leave Western Australia. When I made that decision, and announced it to my business partner, our resident sociopath. He decided, as sociopaths often do, that I was no longer an ally. I was the enemy. Mr. X sabotaged every effort I made to exit the business with my fair share. He wanted to see me financially ruined. We got a broker into the business to evaluate its worth, and Mr. X told him lie after lie after lie about the value of the business. Later I realized that he had in fact forecast his own future. Mr. X had told the broker which clients were about to leave us and why the business wasn't worth as much as I thought it was. Strangely, I never even estimated its worth. That's why we employed the services of a broker. Mr. X yelled, he screamed, he punched walls, he even brought in a new partner, which just happened to be his girlfriend, into the business and locked me out of signing checks by changing banks. All of this was illegal at the time, all without my consent. Lawyers, of course, came in and were involved, and the whole ordeal was an absolute and utter mess. Mr. X ensured it would be that way. Within the 3 months of selling my share of the business, the stress caused me to lose 8 kilos, almost 18 pounds. To cut a very long story short, he stole my business out from under me, and then to rub salt into the wounds, he destroyed my business in less than 18 months and also tried to destroy my reputation. During the negotiations, they were fights really. And at the pinnacle of my pain and stress, I had an idea. It was the scariest idea I've ever had. I realized that all my problems could completely disappear with one contract. You know exactly what I'm talking about here. Just the idea of it sickened me. It also scared me, thinking that I could even think those thoughts. But of course, I was certainly not in a forgiveness space. My choices were at the time the biggest choices of my life: kill, be killed, or forgive. Most soldiers have 2 choices. I had 3. I didn't forgive him, nor did I kill him. I made the choice to be killed, and I died inside. I was so angry, and for 7 years I couldn't and wouldn't forgive him. For 7 years I carried the pain of non-forgiveness. I flailed in business, and I resorted to working for someone else for a while, and of course found more sociopaths. I didn't learn the lesson. But something magical happened. Eventually, and I'll share that with you at the end of this video, I have learned that what you run from chases you until you stop and forgive or learn from it. So let me share a quick form of forgiveness. It's called Ho'oponopono. Ho'oponopono is an ancient Hawaiian method of stress reduction by release and problem solving. The word Ho'oponopono means to make right, to rectify an error, to make wrongs right. In many Polynesian cultures, it is believed that a person's errors, called hara or hala, caused illness. Some believe that error angers the gods. Others believe that it attracted malevolent gods, and still others believe guilt caused by error made one sick. Personally, I don't believe in angry gods, just loving ones. However, I don't claim to know either way. Regardless, unforgiveness holds the power to make one sick. I truly believe that. However, today I would like to specifically share the Ho'oponopono Hawaiian prayer, which is made up of 4 powerful phrases that I believe are the hardest sentences for one to utter. They are simple and pure. They are: 1. I am sorry. 2. Please forgive me. 3. Thank you. And the final one, 4. I love you. Very, very simple sentences. How could 4 sentences change your world in so many ways? Let me share. I recall working with a medium and a friend many years ago who first shared Ho'oponopono with me. Together, we unpacked these 4 simple sentences, and I would like to share our insights with you. So let's start with the first sentence. I'm sorry. I'm sorry has the word sorry within it, and sorry comes from Old English, which is sarig or sarag, which means pained or distressed, of West Germanic origin, from the base of the noun sore. The shortening of the root vowel has given the word an apparent connection with the unrelated word sorrow. So when we say I'm sorry, we actually mean I'm sore, I'm hurting. So sorry isn't an apology in that it's acknowledging pain or hurt. So when we start our Ho'oponopono prayer, we're acknowledging our pain or hurt over something we're sore over, something we're sorry about, but we're not apologizing for another's behavior. The next line is please forgive me. And this is where it gets truly interesting. The opposite of forgive is forget. And true forgiveness is forgetness. That is, we must do all we can to forget in order to forgive. As the saying goes, let bygones be bygones. Bygone is a thing dating from a previous time. You know how some people say, I forgive you, and later in life, they recount what happened or what you did, and they represent it to you. Well, that's not truly forgetting, isn't it? Yes, that was another not. But seriously, the second line of the Ho'oponopono prayer helps us to remember that true forgiveness is to forget, let go, committed to forgetting forever. However, there is a philosophical insight that you must get from the second line, and that is to acknowledge that the only way to know bad is to have some bad in us too. In psychology, we call it perception is projection. Perception and projection are 2 psychological processes. They are values neutral, neither good nor are they bad. Within themselves, of course. We repress stuff in our minds which we find hard to cope with. This stuff is made up of beliefs and ideas, emotions and feelings about ourselves and about other people and, of course, the world. Interestingly, we repress good things about ourselves, stuff we might have had difficulty accepting at the time we repressed it, as well as the more obvious negative things, of course. Projection is where we see attributes that we possess showing up in other people. It's essential to recognize that if we didn't believe we possess these attributes ourselves at some level, we could never see it in others. Hence, perception is projection. Of course, much or all of what we see in others can be stuff we've, deeply repressed in ourselves, which makes the whole process all the more mysterious. Later we'll hear from Dr. Hugh Len, who will give you even deeper insights into this, and you'll soon realize why I've worn this shirt. But for now, let's move to the third line, which is thank you. Once we have acknowledged our pain in I'm sore or sorry, and progress to please forgive me, by committing to the act of forgetting, it's now time for thanks. Thanks is gratitude, and what we're grateful for continues to show up in our lives. I studied gratitude a great deal when developing our Rich Mind program, and thanks, our gratitude creates flow. Whatever you are grateful for continues flowing into your life. Think of it like this. When someone gives you a gift, imagine Christmas, imagine Easter, or imagine your birthday, and someone gives you a gift and you say, no, you shouldn't have. Don't ever expect to receive another gift from that person ever again. The giver was not rewarded. The gift was shunned. And so the pattern of gift giving is broken. When we get something wonderful delivered from the universe, we could be grateful, resentful, or take it all for granted. If you think of the universe as a friend, what would ensure that gifts keep coming? Resentment, ungrateful, or grateful? It's rhetorical, of course. Gratitude ensures that what you're grateful for keeps coming into your life again and again and again, whereas being ungrateful or resentful drives the elements that hold the associated meaning away. It's kind of like you're pushing or holding something away from you. When we give thanks, we perpetuate what we're grateful for, and so thank you in the Ho'oponopono prayer encourages forgiveness that comes from the second line, please forgive me. Finally, the fourth line ensures that forgiveness continues for eternity and salves the wound entirely. That line comes from the hardest sentence for us to say. In fact, I would say it's the hardest sentence of all. That final sentence, I love you. I love you heals all wounds, and to love is the greatest gift, the most powerful blessing you can ever give someone. Love adds speed. For example, when a couple are hit by Cupid's arrow and fall in love, everything speeds up. Before you know it, you're living together, married, have children, a mortgage, and your life's over in the blink of an eye. I would argue that love is the greatest power of all. Think about how love distorts time. If you're doing what you love, time evaporates like pulling the plug out of a bath. But if you're doing something you do that you don't love, then time seems to extend and it seems to take forever. It's almost an irony that by doing more of what you love, you seem to have less time in life. Mysteriously, interestingly. Wouldn't you agree? So love is an awesome power and is rightly at the end of the Ho'oponopono prayer. Love can heal all wounds, solve all disagreements, it can even end wars. So these 4 sentences are, in my view, the most powerful sentences of all time. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. So let's share the power of this prayer. Dr. Hugh Len believed that we should take 100% of responsibility for ourselves. He worked at Hawaii State Hospital and used the Ho'oponopono prayer and its philosophy by focusing it in onto himself as he assessed his patients. Now, for example, he would focus on a client's anger, for example, and being 100% responsible, he looked within. Perception is projection. To cure the anger within himself, as he believed that when he cured anger within him, he could no longer experience anger in others. A deep and profound concept to fully understand, I know, but here's what happened. Dr. Hugh Len used the Ho'oponopono prayer to heal each of the inmates from his ward at the Hawaii State Hospital, to the degree that they ended up closing that wing of the hospital because it was completely empty. All of Dr. Hugh Len's patients were miraculously healed as he healed aspects of himself. Acknowledging them, I'm sorry or I'm sore, then after acknowledging them, he healed them by forgetting them. Please forgive me. Then he showed his gratitude, thank you, and intended his healing filled with love with, I love you. The cornerstone of all forgiveness and healing, of course, is love. Perhaps let's hear it in Dr. Hugh Len's own words.
The most fundamental question one needs to know is the question, who am I? And most people have no idea about who they are and therefore are not allow the data in them to speak for them, as opposed to choosing to not have the data by erasing it. And so it's coming back to great sages like Jesus. Jesus said, love your enemies. And your only enemy is the memory plane that you experience as the judgment, anger, resent, and hate, annoyance. And so the Ho'oponopono is about falling in love with the data and saying to the anger, I love it, saying to the memory that replays the anger, I love you, thank you for showing up, and giving you one more chance to free you. And so the Ho'oponopono is just simply saying, I love you, thank you.
Now, let's hear about Dr. Hugh Len's miracle at Hawaii State Hospital, in his own words.
See, what happens is that at any given moment, 11 million bits of information is playing, for which you are unconscious of.
Yes.
So it's driving you. So you don't have free will, but you have choice. The choice is, like Shakespeare is saying, to be or not to be free of the data. You have that choice, but the data is going to run you. The only question is, what data is going to run you? Is it going to be inspiration, or is it going to be memory, which is dead stuff?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the choice, but one doesn't have free will.
Let's talk about the people at Hawaii State Hospital.
Yeah.
By changing yourself, you changed them because they are part of yourself. Is the language correct?
I'm taking 100% responsibility because peace begins with me. So if I show up and I'm not peaceful, you can't be peaceful yourself. And so I'm only here because only for one purpose, and that is to make amends for. My job is just to begin being 100% responsible by doing the cleaning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I don't know what's getting cleaned up. I'm clueless.
I get the impression that you make many of your decisions, your actions, based upon petitioning divinity to make a choice as to act in one way or to act in another way. Is that right?
Again, we're going to have to be really precise now.
Okay.
I do the cleaning. That's my job, to get back to zero. I want to be free.
Okay.
That's my only purpose for being on this planet is I got garbage, and which is mortgage on my soul, and I want to let go of the garbage so I can be free. And so at freedom, the information comes from the source.
Yes.
And I thought it would also be beneficial to hear Dr. Hugh Len's ideas around cleaning.
So what is cleaning like? Can you describe what your cleaning process is?
Yeah, cleaning is only saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me for whatever data is going on in me that I need to make amends for. It isn't like a process where you go, oh, I got it. It's something that has to be worked on and cleaned on, and then like a rose, it just begins to unfold, and at some point...
I guess you've now worked out why I'm wearing this shirt. It's in honor of Dr. Hugh Len's genius and his relaxed and humble ways. Ho'oponopono also taught me about the power of NLP, the power of the installation and the power of intention. I knew that if I held the space for healing, healing could actually occur. If I held the space for achievement, success could occur. This seemed to give me special abilities as a coach and a trainer. My clients and students would often say, when I'm in your space, I feel like I can do anything, and so they did. Ho'oponopono and Dr. Hugh Len teaches us that we cannot help but project our data onto others. We project our intention, our energy, our feels onto others. It's our unconscious patterns and our conscious intention. It's another reason to continue to clear our garbage, as Dr. Hugh Len suggests. He keeps saying, I'm just here to clean out my garbage. And he's probably right. So after all that time being angry at Mr. X, for 7 years I carried the pain of non-forgiveness in me. Not him, in me. Nothing in my business or career worked, and then one day, on the 7th anniversary of our legal battle, I had to make a legal decision to pursue him or to forgive him. I remember walking from South Bank through the railway tunnel to Flinders Street, Melbourne. I remember standing there at the station and all these people were just passing me as I was frozen in time in this moment. And I really decided consciously, deeply, to let this all go. 7 years of pain, why carry that for that long? I think about how crazy it was to hold on to that resentment for that amount of time. So I stopped. And in my head, I said, I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And what happened next was totally profound. And I've never actually shared this before. You might recall me sharing a story where I earned half a year's income in one phone call when I worked in the Rialto, and then another half a year's income, and then a whole year's income in the third phone call. So I had 2 years of income and 2 years of time. It seemed at that time like a door to my flow had opened somehow, that it had opened again and money was coming from many sources. I believe that acknowledging my pain, being sore, asking for forgiveness, thanking the opportunity for learning, and allowing love back into my life led me to become a millionaire for the second time in my life. All of this happened 1 month after saying the Ho'oponopono prayer. So if there's something not right in your life, acknowledge it, forgive it, thank it for what it gives you as a learning, and love it for all the wisdom that comes from that learning. And learning rarely comes from good times. After all, there is rarely anything to learn when everything's going wonderfully. It's time to truly be taught from your tragedies, helped by your harms. Let bygones be bygones in just 4 sentences. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. In the next video, we're going to do what NLP calls the forgiveness process. It's much longer than Ho'oponopono. It's far more complicated. However, it's more useful in coaching clients who believe they need more than a Hawaiian prayer to truly forgive. Some people need more logical insights into their issues, and as the forgiveness process takes almost an hour to do, it's highly effective in reducing resentments. As Molokai McCourt, the Irish-American actor, once said, resentment is like taking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Forgiveness is ourselves. My name is Rick Schnabel, and I wish you and your family a magical life beyond limits. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.